Malaysia urges foreign intervention to stop what it calls the genocide of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. Why has there been little international action so far? And why hasn't Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi been more vocal? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Sami Zaidan. Welcome to the show. Pressure on government leaders in Myanmar is being ramped up as Malaysia accuses its neighbour of committing genocide against the Rohingya Muslim minority. Government leaders in the Buddhist-majority Myanmar deny the ethnic cleansing of people they consider to be illegal immigrants and terrorists. Rohingya gunmen are blamed for the killing of 9 policemen in October. Well, since then, dozens of Rohingya have been killed, tens of thousands forced from their homes in a military crackdown. Soldiers are accused of gang rape, torture and destroying entire villages in Rakhine State. The Myanmar government denies the allegations, but bans journalists from visiting Rohingya areas. Florence Louis reports from Sitwe.
Thousands of people crammed into a stadium in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday morning. Led by the Malaysian Prime Minister, they condemned the treatment in neighbouring Myanmar of Rohingya people.
The world cannot sit by and watch genocide taking place. The world cannot just say, look, it's not our problem.
The Malaysian rally was provoked by the military crackdown in the northern parts of Rakhine State in Myanmar. That followed the killing of 9 guards when border posts were attacked in October. Rohingya fighters were blamed for their deaths. Rights groups accused Myanmar troops of committing atrocities against the Rohingya, allegations the government denies. The UN describes the Muslim ethnic group as one of the world's most persecuted minorities. They are regarded as illegal migrants in Myanmar and have few rights. Riots 4 years ago involving the Rohingya and the Rakhine, a mostly Buddhist ethnic group, killed 200 people and displaced more than 100,000 others. Many, like Amina, still live in camps, unable to move around freely and largely dependent on aid.
I can't feed my children proper food. We don't have money, so we can't even buy medicine when we are sick.
In downtown Sitwe, there are signs of a community uprooted. Several Rohingya families used to live here. Some had shops in town. Their children used to go to nearby schools. But their homes were destroyed in 2012, and they haven't been allowed to return since. The government set up a commission in August to look at, among other things, reconciliation between the Rakhine and Rohingya people. Led by former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan, the commissioners are in Rakhine State for their second official visit, which included a trip to towns targeted by the military operation. Al Jazeera has been told that Rohingya villagers were warned what they could and couldn't say to the commissioners, adding to concerns that government leaders in Myanmar are trying to hide what really happened. The calls for them to allow full access to the northern parts of Rakhine State are growing louder. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera, Sitwe.
Well, the United Nations Human Rights Agency says Myanmar's treatment of the Rohingya could be tantamount to crimes against humanity, repeating findings from a report in June, which said the Muslim minority is subject to forced labour, sexual violence and denial of citizenship. Well, let's get the thoughts of our guest now. Joining us from London, we have Tun Kin, president of the Burmese Rohingya organisation in the UK. Also in London, Mongzani. He's a fellow at the Genocide Documentation Centre of Cambodia and a human rights activist. And I should point out that we did invite a spokesperson for the Myanmar government to appear on this show, but unfortunately, technical problems prevented him from participating. Welcome to you all. If I could start with Tun Kin. What is happening in Mongdao? You follow the government narrative. They say they're simply combating an armed group there.
Yes, since 9 October, what we are receiving the information is government is, government is raping Rohingya women, slaughtering Rohingya men, and throwing Rohingya children to the fire. They burning down Rohingya houses. According to our information, we received since 9 October until today, more than 500 Rohingyas were killed, and more than 200 Rohingya women were raped. About 2,000 Rohingya houses were burned down. 35,000 Rohingya become homeless.
All right, let me jump in here, Tun Kin, if I can play devil's advocate for a moment. You know what the Myanmar government says? They say those are baseless allegations. There's no facts or evidence to back allegations like that up.
If these are baseless accusations, why not the government is not allowing international observers or international journalists and medias? We have already seen from Human Rights Watch report, UNHCR officer have interviewed refugees who fled to Bangladesh recently. He has already mentioned what's happening to the Rohingyas is ethnic cleansing. That's why these people are fleeing from the country. And, Burmese government is sacking the reporters who wrote about the rape cases, and they complaining BBC, who are mentioning about this rape cases issue. But the other side, they are not allowing. So they want to hide the crime against what they've been doing against Rohingya. That is the problem there,
All right, let's bring Mongzani into the discussion. As Tun Kin pointed out there, the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR agency in the Bangladesh border town of Cox's Bazar's head, John McKissick, has said that he thinks the ultimate goal of the Myanmar authorities is ethnic cleansing. Do you, from the research you've done, do you see that that is what the government is working at?
No, actually, even worse. There is a mountain of very credible research reports, academic publications, including, the 3-year study that my wife and I published in a legal publication in the United States. We have concluded after she studying the issue for about 10 years and myself studying it for about 5 years, we reach the conclusion unequivocally that the Burmese government is guilty of 4 out of 5 genocidal acts defined clearly in the 1948 Genocide Prevention and Punishment Act. And that conclusion has been echoed and reinforced by, no other than people that were legal scholars and experts and lawyers that were involved in various genocide tribunals and international tribunals, including Yugoslavia.
If that's the case, Mon, why do you think there's been very little international involvement? Let me read to you here, for example, a statement made by the US President Barack Obama on December the 2nd, 2016, when he lifted more sanctions against Myanmar, declaring that the government there had made, quote, substantial progress in improving human rights. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me because I lived in Washington D.C. and worked to get the United States sanctions imposed about 10-15 years ago, and the Americans have been itching to get into Burma and to neutralize what they consider is the growing influence of China over Burma. And because the United States has done what is called, particularly Obama and Hillary Clinton have done what is called Asian pivoting, or like rebalancing, moving the American troops to try to contain the rise of China. And so that is why they have created this rosy narrative using Aung San Suu Kyi's freedom and sitting as a puppet of the military as the cover or the smoke screen to tell the world that Burma is moving forward, making a progress. How can you say, in all honesty and with your integrity intact, when an active genocide against an entire ethnic minority is going on, and it is going on for almost 38 years?
Right. Well, let's take some of those points to Tun Keen then. You're representing an organisation that seeks to promote Rohingya interests. What kind of reaction do you get when you speak to leaders and try and make the case, perhaps, for international action?
Well, you know, we have seen today Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak, he is speaking of genocide against Rohingya. We really appreciate Prime Minister Najib and the people of Malaysia standing up with Rohingya.
But there aren't many following his example, are there, right now?
I mean, other international community, particularly United Kingdom, US, United States, EU, and others, they are even, as you have mentioned just now, US government have lifted the last sanctions the day before yesterday. It's actually encouraging more crime against humanity against Rohingya. This is seriously worsening situation. International community still they are not focusing on human rights. Instead, they are following up to do more trade.
I'm curious to know, when you speak to leaders and those who have power, what reasoning do they give you as to why they're moving in that direction?
The reason is actually they are concerned. They say we raising with Aung San Suu Kyi, what's happening, and we are trying our best to get stability and peace, pushing the government, you know, to stop this. This is what's going on, but they are not focusing the bottom line, where we are receiving our brothers and sisters. They are being killed by Myanmar army, and they've been raped, mass killings and rapes is going on. It's been 7 weeks now, but they're still silent. They're just raising up that way. But for me, I think international community have done just raising up the issue. They have done no practical action. You know, you have seen that UN have already mentioned what's happening to the Rohingyas is crime against humanity. This year, June 29, they did a report, but governments have done nothing at all on that report, what is going on to the Rohingyas. You can see now Malaysia government have highlighted it's not internal interference, it's a genocide going on against Rohingya. So we need international solidarity. We need Indonesia, Bangladesh government, United States, OIC, and other governments to come forward to stop this.
Let me make the devil's advocate argument again and say, what do you make of the suggestion that, as bad as things are, it might be worse if there wasn't some sort of give and take and contact between international powers and the authorities in Myanmar, and that perhaps at least the situation may not be good, but it's not as bad as it was a few years ago, the argument goes, when the military regime was in complete control of the country. How do you respond to that one, Tun Keen?
You know, especially the point here is Aung San Suu Kyi, if you look at the point, because now everybody is, international community have backed up Aung San Suu Kyi and these reforms, but now she is covering this crime. She is part of this crime against humanity. She is totally, you know, totally denying everything. Instead, she is saying exaggeration from international community. If this would happen under a President Thein Sein government, international community have spoken up more louder, and we may have seen some actions. So unfortunately, you know, we have seen we have seen we have seen quite disturbing sounds from international level. You know, the point here is we need international level from international community, some concrete action. You know, you have seen Rwanda and Bosnia, international community have failed. They have said we never again. Whenever ethnic cleansing, genocide, crime against them, they say never again. But currently it's happening against Rohingya people.
All right, got that point. Let's move the discussion back to Mongzani. You mentioned, and so did Tun Keen mention, Aung San Suu Kyi. If we look at some of her recent statements, October the 12th, she said things like, "Show me a country without human rights issues," when she was asked about the Rohingya issue. Only a few days ago, December the 2nd, she sounded kind of defensive of the authorities when she said, "It doesn't help if everybody is just concentrating on the negative side of the situation, in spite of the fact that there were attacks against police outposts." Now, you've met Aung San Suu Kyi, haven't you? Take us into her mind. Why does she come across as between either not vocal enough or perhaps even protective and defensive of the authorities who one assumes she knows can be quite oppressive given her history of suffering oppression at the hands of military-backed authorities there?
Well, not only did I meet her, in fact, my own great uncle and her father, credited with the independence negotiation with the Britain in 1947, were classmates and close friends at Rangoon University in 1936. And I actually was assigned to handle the Rohingya question when she came to London to speak on a panel with me and a few other people at the London School of Economics, because she did not want to address the Rohingya issue. So I had to step in on her behalf and address the Rohingya questions from the audience in London. The reason she has been seen as either being silent or sitting on the fence, actually she is not sitting on the fence. She is denying the fact that we as Burmese people, her government, the military, are all involved in destroying the ethnic community that is actually our own ethnic people, our own ethnic minority. I tell you this, she is lying when she say to the international community not to use the term genocide because it's not factual and emotive. Here, this is the publication from 1960 from the Ministry of Defense called the Current Affairs. Here, published in July 15th, 1960 from the Ministry of Defense of Burma, where Rohingyas were officially recognized as ethnic minority. My other great uncle was deputy head of the Rohingya administration as a senior major. And so, Aung San Suu Kyi is criminally responsible because she knows that we are lying to the world. She knows what the army is doing to the people, not since October 9th.
All right, let me jump in again and be devil's advocate and make the argument that perhaps she isn't criminally responsible, the argument goes. Let's, for example, if I was to take the words of the US Assistant Secretary of State Daniel Russell, has been quoted as saying, quote, "We should have confidence in her judgment, not fall prey to the idea that she doesn't get it and she doesn't care. She does get it," he goes on to say, "and she does care." Now, what do you make of the argument, Mongzani, that she's not completely in control of the situation in Myanmar right now, is she? The military is still very strong, and perhaps she doesn't want to rock the boat too much, too quickly, which might provoke a military backlash that would set the country back even further than the very sad things that are going on there now. What do you make of that?
Well, under the current constitution, there are three ministries: Border Affairs, Ministry of Defense, and Home Affairs. They are not under our control. However, the rest of the government apparatuses, Information Ministry, Immigration, Religious Affairs, Justice Ministries, and others that are equally involved in the operations against the Rohingya people, who are our country people, my own country people, as I said. So she is not innocent at all. The fact that she cannot stop the army from killing and slaughtering and raping Rohingya women and torching villages, burning down several thousand homes, it's not her fault. But when she goes to talk to journalists in the English-speaking world, and when she says that international community is paying too much attention to the negative side of this issue instead of focusing on the positive, well, let me ask her this directly. Which aspect of an active genocide that is going on for 38 years does she consider positive? Are there redeeming aspects of a genocide?
Okay, let's take the discussion back to Tun Keen. You're a Rohingya. you're aware, no doubt, that the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution on the 29th of December 2014 calling on the Myanmar authorities to change the citizenship law so that Rohingyas can get citizenship. Do you have any hope that that will happen one day and that perhaps people like you can return to Myanmar as fully equal citizens with their rights fully respected?
I think if you look at current situation, what is happening to Rohingya people is international community already have mentioned genocide against Rohingya is going on, international experts. But if you look at actually what we need now is for the short term, immediately these killings have to stop, this genocide must stop. International community urgent intervention is needed for now. But if you look at further what can be, I'm quite doubted. You see, we have high expectation on Aung San Suu Kyi. Rohingya people stood up with NLD government and supported more than 20 years. Now she is together with military who are wiping out the Rohingya minority in Arkan state. And you know, if the willingness of the NLD leaders, particularly Aung San Suu Kyi, she can still do much more things. But if you see 1982 citizenship law, this law is deprived basic fundamental rights of the Rohingya. Because of that law, even though my grandfather was a parliamentary secretary, I'm not a citizen of Burma. You know, like 1.3 million Rohingyas are, you know, without citizenship because of that law. But NLD leader Aung San Suu Kyi and NLD government, if they have willing, they can change anytime. But for me, I'm quite doubt because you know currently the parliament is led by majority MPs are NLD. But if they have willing, they can change this law. But instead, they are dragging the time by forming Kofi Annan Commission and others to show international community. So I'm quite doubted. I don't think much hope. So that's why today my appeal as a Rohingya today to international community is we are a people 1.3 million facing genocide, you know, in Arkan state, western part of Burma. They locked down the areas more than 7 weeks. We need urgent international community intervention to save the lives of the Rohingya. That's what my appeal, honestly, to the world leaders and all the people.
Let me move things on back to Mong Zani. We've got about a minute and a half left, Mong, and a UNHCR report of 2011 described the Rohingya as, quote, virtually friendless. Given the international struggle for influence in Burma between some of the powers you mentioned, China and the US, do you think that that basically sums up their fate going forward? They don't have a lot of friends in the world. They don't have a lot of powerful lobbies, diaspora lobbies, to move parliaments in the way that perhaps other communities have been able to do in the West, in France, to pass resolutions recognizing their suffering. Are they basically going to be left out?
No, they're not going to be left out. You know why? If you look at what's going on in Bangladesh, Malaysia, and the wider Islamic world, there is a massive outrage among the Muslim youth, both men and women, who feel personally violated when they hear stories of Rohingya women gang raped by Burmese troops and Aung San Suu Kyi standing idly by. And so what we are going to see is, you know, massive, fast radicalization of Islamic youth, Islamic organizations and governments rallying, calling for International Criminal Court to intervene and then trying to mobilize governmental level Islamic solidarity. And I think like in a way it is very worrying when the existing United Nations system is failing the Rohingya, leaving them to their vices in the hands of genocidal Burmese government. Then like, you know, people of the Muslim world will take up the issue and you know, try to deliver justice themselves.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there because I'm afraid we are out of time. Let's thank our guests, Tun Keen and Mong Zani, and thank you for watching. You can see the show again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, just head over to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle there is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Sami Zaidan, and the whole team here, for now, it's goodbye.